Welcome to my simple zoology class. I hope I was crystal clear in whatever I had taught you in yesterday's class. I hope it was very much beneficial with the initial day of the class. We had started with the transport of gases, which is very much important from the exam point of view. Okay, now here we'll be continuing further of this yesterday's topic itself, that is on oxygen dissociation curve. But before that, let us just have a brief summary of what we studied in yesterday's class. We had spoken about transport of oxygen taking place in two different techniques. One is in dissolved state through plasma, that is around 3%, and the second one was as oxyhemoglobin, about 97%. Okay, now we had also said that hemoglobin has got four units, correct? Now, hemoglobin is an iron containing pigment which is present in our RBC. If you split the term heme and globin, which is going to be found, correct? Now, here in the transportation of oxygen, heme is going to come play a major role, whereas coming to transportation of carbon dioxide, it is the globin, that is the protein portion, which is going to play a very role. When I'll be teaching transportation of carbon dioxide, I'll be telling you in brief how does it work out over there. Okay, now each hemoglobin can carry about how many molecules of oxygen at once? It is going to be 4 molecules of oxygen. Now, before understanding oxygen dissociation curve, let us see, or there is a note which I had written over here, that is binding of oxygen with hemoglobin is completely or primarily related to the partial pressure of oxygen. First of all, you need to understand what exactly is partial pressure. Partial pressure is nothing but it's a pressure which is exerted by a single gas in a mixture of gases, correct? So that itself is called as what? Partial pressure. Now, coming to oxygen dissociation curve. Now, here what exactly is happening in the oxygen dissociation curve? For the oxygen dissociation curve or a dissociation curve to be formed, you need to plot a graph. A graph has been plotted between oxygen concentration and percentage saturation of hemoglobin, which is that oxygen concentration and percentage saturation of hemoglobin. That is what is happening over here. Now, what is the dissociation curve that is obtained over here? That is sigmoid curve. So, what type of curve? This also can be asked in the form of MCQs. It has been asked once or twice. So, please remember what type of curve? It's a sigmoid curve. Now, two major factors you have to remember. Now, how is this going to take place? Now, here I have written the partial pressure of oxygen and the other side percentage saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen. Now, if in case the shift towards the left, if you can see on the top, I've mentioned over here, if the shift towards left is going to take place, that means there is increase in affinity or binding capacity between oxygen and hemoglobin is going to take place. Now, why is this shift towards left taking place? The reason behind it is there is increase in binding capacity. That we understood. But why is there increase in the binding capacity? That we need to know. Now, there are certain key factors. Okay. Now, there are certain factors which will help us in understanding how this increasing in binding capacity between oxygen and hemoglobin is going to take place. For that, I have mentioned over here, if you can see right below shift to left, low HTC. Now, what exactly is this low HTC that you need to understand? HTC, if I have to say, there was a time there was this phone called HTC which did not work for a quite longer time. So, HTC, I've made a short form, a simple funda for you guys to remember. Okay, H stands for H plus, T stands for temperature, C stands for partial pressure of carbon dioxide. Now, what have I mentioned over here towards shift to left is low HTC. That means there is low H plus concentration, low temperature, and low partial pressure of carbon dioxide. Now, what are the things which are high? Now, some things are less, some things might be high also, right? So, what are the things which are high over here? If there is low H plus, pH is going to be high. If there is low partial pressure of carbon dioxide, high partial pressure of oxygen is going to take place. Now, where is this exactly happening? That is the major question you need to understand. There are two levels. Okay, students. One is alveolar level and the other one is tissue level. Okay. Now at alveolar level, you can expect the partial pressure of oxygen to be very high when compared to that of the partial pressure of carbon dioxide. But coming to tissue level, that means as the gas is moving further inside the body, the partial pressure of carbon dioxide will be high when compared to that of the partial pressure of oxygen. Now, this whole factors which are working over here, that is low HTC, which I have made a simple one for you students, is working at the alveolar level. Now, what exactly is happening at the alveolar level is low H plus, low temperature, low partial pressure of carbon dioxide, which leads to high pH and high partial pressure of oxygen. That's when you get to see the binding capacity or affinity between oxygen and hemoglobin. That's when you call it as what? Association curve. Okay, that's when the increasing affinity between oxygen and hemoglobin is going to take place. That is shift to left. I hope I was clear with this. Please do remember the key factors and simple funda, that is low HTC. If shift to left, low HTC. Now similarly, I have written over here shift to right. Now you need to understand it's quite opposite to that of the shift to left. If shift to left is low HTC, obviously shift to right is going to be high HTC. Why is the graph shifting towards the right? Is because there is decrease in binding capacity between oxygen and hemoglobin. That means there is low binding capacity between the oxygen and hemoglobin. Now, obviously, there are factors which are useful for this decrease in binding capacity, isn't it? Now, which are those factors? Now, if the shift to left was low HTC, this is going to be high HTC. Which are the high things? High H plus, high temperature, high partial pressure of carbon dioxide. So, which will lead to obviously low pH and low partial pressure of oxygen. Okay. Now, if you remember, while I was explaining shift to left, I had told you there are two different levels, correct? Now, the previous one was happening at the alveolar level. This is taking place at the tissue level because at the tissue level, the partial pressure of carbon dioxide is higher when compared to that of the partial pressure of oxygen, which will ultimately lead to what? Dissociation of oxygen with that of the hemoglobin, and hence we call this as what? Dissociation curve. Along with that, there is one more important point also to remember, that is Bohr's effect. This is very, very important to remember. Now, what exactly is this Bohr's effect is, if you can see over here on the screen, I have mentioned, if at all there is low in pH or rise in H plus concentration, what? Low in pH or high in H plus concentration, that is basically happening where? At the tissue level, these two major conditions are going to act favorable for the dissociation of oxygen to form what? Oxyhemoglobin. Since we are studying under oxyhemoglobin, this we need to remember. I'll repeat once again. Bohr's effect is nothing but if at all there is low pH or high H plus concentration. Basically, we are talking over here shift to right. That's it. Just remember, if shift to right, that means low pH, high H plus. Low O2, high CO2 will ultimately lead to what? Bohr's effect, which is ultimately helping for what? Dissociation of oxygen to form oxyhemoglobin. So this is a simple method to remember the oxygen dissociation curve. Please remember the simple funda which I had explained: low HTC, shift to left; high HTC, shift to right. And what is Bohr's effect? That is low pH or rise in H plus concentration. This is going to take place into Bohr's effect. And at alveolar level, PO2, that is partial pressure of oxygen, will be high, and at the tissue level, partial pressure of carbon dioxide is going to be high. I hope I was clear with this topic today. If you have liked my video, please like, share and subscribe. Thank you so much, students. Have a good day.